back to Streaming Sundays. Today is July 31st, 2016, and this is the first week that we are streaming live on YouTube. I almost said Hitbox because I'm used to it. If you're not watching live, you should join us every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. There is always a link for the next Streaming Sundays in your subscription feed if you are subscribed to this channel, so you will never miss a moment. And today's game is Tin Star, which will feature audience participation. Now, this isn't Tin Star from the Super NES era, which is a side-scroller shoot-'em-up. This is a choose-your-own-adventure book that is available on Steam for, I think, like $3, $4. It's pretty cheap. So hopefully you like the sound of my voice because I'm going to be doing a lot of reading. And if you are not here live, you're missing out on helping us out because it will be always your choice how we control the story, because at this channel, I try to do that on one breath. At PyroFalkon's Let's Play Extravaganza, it's your Let's Play too. Okay, so settle in. It's story time. Go grab some alcohol or some hot chocolate and a blankie or something. Oh, the Yakamura's here too.
Hi.
So,
I've just been sitting here the entire time, recovering from heat stroke. I actually just checked my temperature. I'm running a fever right now.
well, stop running a fever.
I'll let you know when I can get right on that.
Is my audio quality that shitty? Oh, just that, because you're playing it too, I assume.
Here, let me...
Yeah, I don't need to pause. Alright. Okay. My other distraction is I have my window against my Dead or Alive Extreme 3 desktop, so it's gonna be distracting. Dawn creeps steadily toward the sleepy city of San Francisco. A host of ships lie at anchor with their sails furled as they bob in the bay. You turn from the ocean view as you reach the top of the stairs and find white tufts of woolly sheep drifting up the lush green hillsides to the east. Sunlight slowly broaches the uncluttered mountains until a golden sheen illuminates a crown of glory against an endless blue sky. Down below, the creak of metal-rimmed wheels rises up as the city awakens to a chorus of horses and carts. A hint of rain hangs heavy in the air and promises to wash every corner of the sprawling expanse clean. A fine morning. Or it would be, if not for the impatient whisk of a hangman's noose. It's a good way to start. The crime is murder, and the sentence is hanging by the neck until dead. The execution to be carried out this day, April 23rd, 1867, a stiff-shirted deputy intones as the noose is slipped around your neck. The lawman's pepperbox pistol remains holstered, but his fingers keep seeking the grip because he knows as well as you that desperate people do desperate things. At the far corner of the platform waits an ominous figure. A hangman in a flat black leather hood that refuses to shift in the early morning breeze. His hard eyes are fixed upon you, and his hand stays poised atop a simple lever. Beneath you, the trap door gives out a low groan as if in morbid anticipation. The creak of rawhide about your wrists echoes that sentiment all too readily. A terrible stillness settles in. This is it. The end. As if hearing that very thought, a black-clad priest steps close with the Bible in hand. "My child, you stand upon the final threshold," the priest asks with a profound gentleness. That wasn't a question. The clerical collar around his neck is crisp, white, and, relatively speaking, tight around his throat. "Will you renounce Satan in all his guises?" We have 7 options. Make it 6, because the bottom is apparently skipping the tutorial or something. So we have 6 options here. If you are watching this live in the chat, just shout out choice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and majority rules, and that will be the one I pick. And I will break ties if a tie is ever done. And since we don't have an actual poll or anything on YouTube, I'll give it about 30 seconds to a minute. If you're watching this from the playlist, as usual, I will cut the waiting period so you don't have to wait. But this is why you should join us, because that way you can participate, and we can play a little bit of audience participation, right? Votes are in, and option 6 wins. All due respect, Padre, now's not the time for making enemies. The priest blinks hard. The Bible closes with a snap, and he backs away. The hangman coughs out a chuckle, and then pulls the lever. It is a short drop followed by a long slide. The noose never snaps, although you strain in vain against that moment. At last, you tumble to a halt amid a dusty cellar. At the far end of a At the far end, a hint of morning light leaks in around a simple door and silhouettes a man in tidy grays that match his thinning hair and broad mustache. Upon his... Wait. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Anyway, upon his chest rests a simple tin star that marks him as the only law in most parts of California, a marshal. He leans against a timbered wall as though he hadn't a care in the world. An ivory inlaid pistol is holstered at his hip, and a rather large knife balances out the low rig. The man idly watches as you lurch to your feet, and don't raise an eyebrow when you pull the noose off. That length of rope snakes down to the ground at your feet, and only then does your full breath return. The stranger's voice is edged with a dark humor as he begins to speak. I heard you with the priest. Quite the tongue on you. And that just might save your neck. I'm Marshal James, and there's a need in the territories for stalwart folk who will wear a badge and get things done. Folks like you. We have 7 options to respond to him with. Please shout your choice in the chat. Votes are in, and the first option wins. You've perked my interest. Go on. Perked my interest. Wouldn't it be piqued? I guess perk does work.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
You're in 200 years ago when people said dumb things.
Okay. Right to the point. Good. I've got breakfast to get to, the marshal says evenly. The marshal methodically extracts and plugs a pipe full of tobacco as he begins. See, what I'm giving you is a chance to not get stretched. There's a county out in Nevada that's in a heap of trouble. I've sent a few marshals their way, but something always happens to them. And yeah, by something, I mean they've run off or come back in a pine box. A sulphurous crackle fills the air as Marshal James strikes a match and lights his pipe. In the sudden light, you can see hard features and rough skin earned from a lifetime under the open sky. Even his graying hair has a feel of granite about it. The only contrast lies about the man's neck, a slim red silk tie of fashionable cut that is a definite deviation from his trail-worn attire. Blue smoke spills out from the marshal's pipe as he puffs. Now, if you take up the star, you'll head out to Lander County in Nevada and serve the people there for a term of 4 years. After that, I'll let you go where you want. Sound good? 8 options there. Wow, this one has a lot of options in it. Most we had usually are like 2 or 3 options. But yes, if you are in the chat live, please vote for one of those 8 options now. Votes are in, and we have a 2-way tie between I may not be a great lawyer, but this sort of thing has to be illegal, and are you offering me redemption? So far, we've not been jerks. We've just been straightforward, so I think whatever character we are going for, are you offering me redemption sounds more like our choice. Call it what you want. I'm just being practical, Marshal James notes, and then absently puffs on his pipe to send a small cloud of blued smoke your way. The soft scrape of boots is heard from the scaffolding above. A steady whisk of an all-too-familiar rope, being coiled up, follows hard on its heels. Marshal James settles back by a narrow seam of sunlight that flickers through a warp in the wall and gives you a little nod. Glad we understand each other. I might seem a mite hard, and I am, but I ain't flicking my whip solely on account of needing a tin star out in Lander County. Remember who you killed? That deed what got you here? You remember who we killed? Choose your choice carefully here. There are 6, and apparently half of them are for choosing that we killed a man, and half of them are that we killed a woman, or perhaps we will protest our innocence for that, so this is probably a fairly important choice. So, how do we respond to the marshal? Please vote in the chat. Votes are in, and we have a tie between 4 and 3, or 3 and 4. I killed that man or woman only because she would have killed me first. For this choice, I think I need a coin. Do you have a coin?
Yeah, hang on, let me grab one.
Because a choice like this, to me, is something that I don't want to leave to any bias in my head. So, I think, what?
Pyro confirmed for Miss Andress?
Well, maybe. Also, of course, as I said before, I have a picture of... Oh, yeah, you're going to have to flip. I can't flip with my hand. What am I talking about? Okay.
Alright, so heads 3, tails 4.
Heads 3, tails 4.
Heads.
Heads. So, I killed that man only because he would have killed me first. Your lawyer argued that rather well, the marshal notes, but the jury was bought and paid for. There were powerful people who needed to see you swing. Now, revenge is a messy thing, and so I expect they won't stop until they ravage everything you hold dear. That is, unless someone intervenes. How do we respond to him? 4 choices. Please choose one in the chat. Votes are in, and there's a tie between options 1 and option 3. Options 1 and 3. So again, we're being fairly straightforward. So what exactly are you offering here? The rarest thing in the world. A second chance, the marshal says quietly. The sun continues to rise, and the day has nearly breached the last of the night. Little bars of sunlight continue to spill through the cracks in the walls until the shadows begin to retreat. Until the shadows between begin to retreat. Ugh, that's a little awkward. Now you are going to have to... Now you... Fuck. Sorry. Now you're going to have to leave the state. Heck, you are going to have to leave behind your former life. But I've made special arrangements concerning that. The marshal promises as clear as the coming day. What you leave behind will be kept safe. Now you might be inclined to think that I'm holding hostage, and I expect you'd be half right. This way I can be sure you won't just run off into the wild, and because of that you won't be sleeping atop Old Boot Hill come nightfall. So why don't you tell me what exactly I'll be looking after of yours here in California? So what is the marshal going to hang on to? Something that is very important to us. We have 7 options. Please choose one in the chat. Votes are in, and option 3 wins, I think. Let me double check. Yeah, oh yeah, option 3 definitely
Yeah, 3
won.
won by a landslide.
So, the marshal is going to look after a nice bit of land. I remember now. Yeah, it is a nice piece. I'll see to it that it's tended and taxes are paid while you are gone, Marshal James promises. Now, I've got a badge here. He holds up a simple 5-pointed star of flattened tin. Across the front of it has been etched with the word Marshal. Along one point of the dull silvery metal there is a trace of a dark stain that doesn't seem likely to scrub clean. With a flick of fingers, he tosses it to you. The star's just tin. It won't stop a bullet. Hell, it won't even cut a steak. It's just a hunk of metal on someone's chest, Marshal James says. The marshal who wears it has to make it shine by their own hand. So tell me, what are you best at? Whoa, we have a lot of choices. Wow, we have a lot of choices. So I'm gonna have to actually expand this window. Okay, in the chat, let me see how that's gonna look on frickin' the stream. That works. It's a little deformed, but at least you can see them all. In the chat, tell me what you want me to answer. Don't give me the number, because the number is probably going to be a little too confusing. Just give me what you want us to be good at in the chat. Alright, votes are in, and blowing things up with gunpowder and nitroglycerin wins. Give me a little patience so I can sort of change the window size again. There we go. Alright, blowing things up with gunpowder or nitroglycerin. Explosives very greatly increased. Yes, as most of these games go, there are stats. If you're watching this, you can kind of pause it if you want to look at it. Oh yeah, we are religious, and we're healthy and vigorous, and we're broke. Anyway, you can see what we're good at here. So, there's a whole bunch of names. Change the stats to a story-based format and review them? That's kind of cool. That's neat. Okay. Alright. I guess they're asking us for a second option. What was the second highest vote there?
Second highest looks like it was building things.
Building things was the second highest? Okay. So, building things will be our next thing. Engineering greatly increased. What are you fair at? Do you have the third most?
We have a 3-way. It's sharpshooting, intimidating people, and brawl. Well, now it's a 2-way since Laser Shark changed their vote.
So, what's the 2-way then?
Sharpshooting and intimidating people. Do you want me to get the coin?
Yes. Go for it.
Heads, sharpshooting, tails, intimidating.
Okay.
Tails.
So, being intimidating, you said?
Yep.
Okay. And what have you dabbled with? That'll be the other one, so that'll be sharpshooting. There we go. Okay, cool. That worked really well. Okay. Nevada is silver country, so they're used to explosions, but it can be even more important to defuse things and people that could explode, Marshal James notes. Now I know who you are, but you can't go using your real name out there. After all, you were dead in California. He removes a small... Oh god, here we go. He removes a small sheaf of papers from his vest pocket. The imprint of a birth certificate is apparent on the foremost, while other official-looking emblems can be seen atop others. Don't worry none about people checking up on you. By the time they pry these from my fingers and figure out they're forged, your 4 years will be up. Just don't run for office afterward, he says wryly, and then taps the end of a gold gilt pin. Now let's get you a working name. Okay, so our first option here is to choose our gender, and we can be Mr., Miss, or I guess gender neutral. So, at least for here, please choose in the chat with 1, 2, or 3 whether you want us to be male, female, or gender neutral. Votes are in, and we are Mr. something. Marshal James scribbles something down on paper and then pauses. Your forename. Okay, the Akamura. What is our forename?
Forename?
Yeah, what's our first name? Because after Pentacunt Sexington Fartknocker, I'm gonna just leave names up to you.
Oh, you wanted it to be something ridiculous?
Not necessarily, Jesus.
James.
Wow.
Put it in.
How restrained of you. Okay, James. When it is done, he gives a quick read that evokes a little frown. Wouldn't have chosen that one, Marshal James notes. It's your name, you ass! Tezzy takes the pen back. He sorts through the papers and makes several additional notations before returning to the first of them. Anyhow, surname? Alright, the Akamura, what is our surname?
What's a good one? Oh, come on, something not ridiculous. I want it to be like throat punch, cock punch, some shit like that.
Of course you do.
No, not today.
Of course you do. Quick, post something insane in the chat.
Let's not.
That's fine. We can take, oh, that's fine, TC. I was mainly kidding. Anyway, we can take suggestions. I am not using another Let's Player's name. God knows that guy already has enough. That would be funny, dude.
Dinglepinger.
You proud? You look proud of that one.
I'm super proud of that one.
Dinglepinger?
Yep.
Well, I did give you the option. Okay. The Marshal takes his papers back and glances at the name you scribbled. Once the scribbling is done, he sets aside the pen and takes a glance at his handiwork. Now then, Mr. James Dinglepinger, shall I lay out the troubles of Lander County for you? Rain breaks the tie. We are at option 2 for the win. Just lay out the bare bones for me. I'll figure out things when I get there. You've got a big country to work. County to work, even. Hell, it's pretty near the biggest in the nation after Utah ceded a big swipe of their territory to Nevada. Kinda had to on account of Nevada having just 5,000 souls when it entered the Union a few years back. Now, though, there's roughly 40,000, or about 1 per square mile. Like you might expect, it's plenty sparse out there. It's getting a little thicker, though. Silver and gold are both having a rush, and plenty of prospectors are up in the mountains or on the rivers looking to make themselves rich. Of course, they're more than likely to blow their findings in boom towns than go back home with them. Elko's the biggest town around, but our sheriff keeps things well in line. Galena ain't so bad, nor is Kingston, Albanian Falls, or any of them other settled places. No, I expect you'll have to make your mark in places like Preston Springs, where the law stays abed when cowboys come to play. On top of all this, the Shoshone around those parts are on the warpath, and there have been raids all over the place. It's gotten so bad that the army is talking about building a fort right quick to try and suppress those Reds. I expect they will, too. There's more than enough veterans from the war between the states and around following the surrender. North or south, it doesn't matter when it's Indians they're fighting. On top of all that, the Central Pacific is set to lay track through Lander County next year or so, just as soon as the work crews finish the tunnels through the Sierra Mountains. They're on the way to Utah, where another company is laying track westward through Nebraska and Wyoming territory. When they link up, this nation will have the first ever transcontinental rail line. He spares you a brief rise of eyebrow. And I don't have to tell you that there's a lot of moneyed interest in seeing that completed. There's liable to be all sorts of people that'll come calling on you for this or that. Let's hope you do better than the previous marshals and spare me the cost of a pine box. The radiance of the morning drives out the cold from your bones as you step out. Better than a pull of panther juice. What? It swathes you and the whole of San Francisco in a golden light. Even the hanging scaffold, empty now, doesn't look quite so terrifying. A guy can't help but smile because just a little while ago, you didn't think you'd get to see it again. Last thing, Marshal James says as he steps before you. The brim of his hat threatens to blot out the happy sun. A bit of tin flashes in his powerful fingers as he fixes the marshal's badge. There you are, nice and legal. That is, if in affirm. I swear to uphold the laws of Nevada, serve the public, and protect the innocent. Votes are in and 3 wins. I affirm it before the Lord. We are making our character religious.
Jesus. Sorry.
You alright?
Sorry, Jesus.
Fine, fine. You are now a provisional marshal, pending the paperwork, Marshal James says and steps aside. Off you go, and remember, I'll be looking after your piece of land out here, though the courts may try and seize it on account of you being convicted for the murder of Thomas Upton. Okay. The rest of the day is a blur as you ride away from San Francisco on a borrowed saddle. By evening, you reach a lonely hotel across from an idle train station. Waiting in a room under the name James Dinglepinger is a bundle of your belongings, but even those familiar items can't help you settle in when the night comes. Your dreams are a disjointed mess filled with roaring lions and a white wall of furious water that utterly engulfs you. It is almost a relief when the distant blast of a steam whistle wakens you at dawn. Your journey to Nevada begins by being whisked down iron rails. The boxy black steam engine chugs rhythmically as it pulls both freight and passenger cars along at a speed no horse can match, or at least not for long. The engine drives you steadily eastward, pausing briefly at towns and villages along the way. Just out the window are men in bowler hats and tidy trimmed suits, cowboys in long dusters, and farmers in rough wool shirts. A few women, too, from sunburnt madres in calico to little girls in pigtails and sundresses, and they make it official. California is no longer the frontier. Even the fly-speck coaling and watering stations out in the middle of nowhere have a dispatch office now. In a few months, there will be little villages all along the line. Along one stretch, the iron road has been laid straight through sprawling forests whose tree trunks are 6 or more feet across. No doubt the trestles below are made from the same wood. Before long, the engine labors up a steady incline into a snowy-peaked mountains that swiftly dominate everything except the sky. Here, the tracks round bends just a stone throws from deep gorges. Time and again, the steam engine plunges through tunnels that have been laboriously cut through the mountainsides. The sun hangs high overhead and slowly broils the land. The train's engine ignores that as it spews out black ash and cinders as it labors toward white-capped mountains filled to the brim with spring snow. Somewhere far ahead, beyond the reach of rails and down twisting, turning wagon trails, out past the ranges of the Sierra, lies Preston Springs and your marshal's office. The steam engine gives a relieved chug as it slows. The hiss of brakes rises up, and then you see it, the end of the line. Here lies a muddy, sprawling camp of men. Stacks of iron rails and wooden ties wait in high piles to be taken on around an imposing summit and laid down. Only a few solid buildings can be seen. Most are either creaky barns or coal casements. Otherwise it is a sea of tents and cook fires, neither of which can completely ward away the mountainous chill. There are Chinese in abundance with their basket hats and simple loose garb at odds with the puffs of locomotive steam. Amongst them, you glimpse a smattering of Irishmen, Red Indians, and even a sprinkling of handsome Pacific Islanders, who readily fill up the narrow ways between tents as they scurry about under the guidance of their white-shirted supervisors. You hop down from the passenger car, and your boots crunch upon the desolate earth beneath. The scent of cinders fades and is replaced with the ripeness of manure, men, and beasts. This high up in the mountains it is hard to catch your breath, even when the wind blows strong. Back by the rear cars, a black-bearded fellow in a red shirt wrenches open the siding of a rail car to reveal a small herd of horses and mules. Indeed, one familiar neigh sounds out, and you just know that your prize stallion will be ready to canter on down the ramp. Ah, now it's Sparkless's favorite choice to make. We have 6 options, including... Oh, I don't know. I basically don't know what any of those look like, but you can see the descriptions there. In the chat, please shout out options 1 through 6 for the type of horse you want us to ride. Votes are in, and option 6 wins. The vivid salt and pepper roan has a splotch of white and a vague star-like mark about one of those dark eyes. As you wait for things to clear up, the bearded man in the rusty red shirt slips a halter over the head of your steed and begins to guide it down the ramp. Right past you into the camp, taking your horse with him. Votes are in, and option 1 wins. We just shout, "Hey, that's my horse!" "What are you trying to pull, Tenderfoot?" the bearded man says as he glances over. "This is my brother's horse, sent on from San Francisco." Votes are in, and option 1 wins again. "No, it is my horse, and I can prove it." At the sound of your voice, your roan flicks a salt and pepper ear your way and nickers eagerly. The man in the red shirt blinks in astonishment as the steed tugs at the halter and strains to reach your side. "You got apples in your pockets, fella?" he wonders and watches as your steed noses up to you with evident familiarity. "My mistake. This here horse just looked like the one my brother wrote me about." Votes are in, and option 1 wins yet again. Understandable. Until you get to know a horse, a particular horse, they often look alike. Wow, we are very kind, noble, nice people here in this story that the Hawks are creating for us. "Yeah, they do that," the man nods. "I'm Denny Basso, lead drover?" Is that a misprint, or is there such a thing for a drover? I don't know what that word means. Lead drover for the Central Pacific camp here. I guess it wouldn't be driver. I don't know what the word means. Anyway, I'm Denny Basso, lead drover for the Central Pacific camp here. Glad to make your acquaintance. Denny holds out a grubby hand. Anyway, we shake his hand. Denny, yeah, I'm going to cut that joke out. I don't want that to spiral out of control. Anyway, sorry. Denny gives your hand a firm shake and looks you in the eye. "Good to meet you, sir. Sorry about the mix and all." Honor slightly increased. The clatter of the camp continues. Men amble to and fro. The scent of baked beans wafts in from somewhere close by. A hint of dry dust lingers in the air. "So you traveling? You look like you're traveling," Denny says as he finishes shaking your hand and giving you the clap. I don't know, I'm sorry. Anyway, 6 options in the chat, or in the story. Please shout one in the chat. Votes are in, and we're going for option 2. On horseback, apparently. How long until the trains are running through the tunnel up ahead? Denny grimaces at the question. "Dunno. The Celestials in there are blasting their hearts out. Well, drilling and blasting. 3 shifts a day, every day but Sunday. From what I've heard, they're measuring the gains in feet. We may be here through the winter, and then some." Option 1 wins. Yes, I am traveling east. Indian country.
What a schizophrenic conversation.
Washoe and worse, Denny considers. Desert, too. Not a lot out there for most people. Option 3 continues the conversation. "What exactly do you do around here, Denny?" "I'm the lead drover. That means I look after the animals here." "Oh, hey, I learned something today. Sheep and cattle mostly. Oh, and horses too? Mules? A few chickens too, where we've got the room," he explains. "Not as much fun as prospecting, but then I don't have to tighten my belt when I don't find any nuggets." Votes are in, and option 6 wins. You wouldn't happen to have a spare map, would you?
Map!
"Map?" Denny asks mostly to himself. "I couldn't just give you one of our good ones, but there's plenty of copies about if you know where to look."
"Map!"
Which is the least helpful thing you've ever said to me, Denny. Does it look like I have Google Maps? Because
map.
If I did, wouldn't need you.
Tech pon, get map.
Exactly, in 1867. He takes a short walk to one of the tents and disappears inside. When he comes out, there's a rolled-up paper in his hand. "Here you go. But in truth, the easiest way forward is to skirt the mountain and ride along the line as best you can. Our graders have been going at things with fills and trestles for a ways now. Always keep Bigler Lake to your right until you're far from here. After that, there's a pair of mountains that make for fine landmarks. As Denny winds down, his gaze flicks over at the revolver on your hip. Quite a piece there, he says, and then gives a chuckle. And obviously, I mean the weapon. Really? Is that what you mean? Votes are in and option 5 wins, which kind of surprises me because it's the smallest caliber, but we tap our Smith & Wesson Model 1, a 22 caliber pistol that uses the new rimfire cartridges. A little pistol, but one that fires the most modern of rounds, called rimfire cartridges. No loose powder and bullet, no need to pack it all together. Reloading can be done in seconds.
Someone likes guns.
And we have a confirmation, but we're going for the confirmation because I won't waste a vote on that one. Easy reloading is a good thing. This is the weapon that is always by my side. The Smith & Wesson Model 1 means having those new rimfire cartridges. You linger a mite to say a proper farewell to Denny, but soon enough you are saddled up and riding east. Central Pacific's bustling little camp is the last rail-connected bastion of civilization before you plunge into the unforgiving wilds of Nevada. Your pack mule, laden with grain and gear, lopes steadily on behind your salt and pepper roan. Fortunately, it doesn't seem we get to name our hoss. A ways ahead, a bevy of carpenters raise the frame of a roundhouse. Farther along, a work gang of 30 Chinese methodically spike fresh rails while more of their cohorts lay down wooden ties and fit in ballast to make everything settle properly. Beyond them are busy teams who dig cuts or dump dirt to make fills so the coming track can run steady and level. A distant explosion sounds out, and judging from the rise of dust, the tunneling and grading teams are still miles ahead. Votes are in and 3 overwhelmingly wins. We use the map to swing southeast to try and pick up the stagecoach track that Denny mentioned. Just head for the Twin Tetons until I run across it. I have a feeling if we just left, we wouldn't have even had that option. You pass by the numerous crews. They are mostly Chinese except for the foreman. The men nod your way before resuming their work. Farther ahead, you pass by the surveyors who, with their plumb bobs and sighting levels, methodically stake out the coming rail. Before long, those men are all left behind. The barren slopes and dry valleys seem to be the only things around. That was awkwardly worded. But after a few days' ride, you finally sight the Twin Tetons. Soon afterward, you come across a stagecoach road, though actually calling it a road is generous. The twin ruts meander through the valleys in so lazy a way that they might as well have been laid out by a madman. Still, those are wide enough that a stagecoach could follow them even at dusk. A low thunder rises in the distance. Over your shoulder, you find curled white clouds streaming down the mountains you left behind like giant, fluffy fish scales. A sniff of the air brings with it the scent of a storm. Votes are in. Option 1 barely wins. We find shelter and wait for the storm to pass. Unfortunately, there isn't a lick of shelter to be found in these mountain slopes and narrow valleys, but somewhere down the road, there might be a town or a cold harbor of some kind. Votes are in and option 2 wins. We head up into the mountains to get away from any possible flooding. You start up the mountainside and take to a crude animal trail that a bighorn sheep must have made. How the hell would you know that? As your horse's hooves kick rocks on down. That is incorrect subject-verb agreement. A great wall of gray clouds looms overhead. Bits of hail, ice as big as your fingertips, pelts you and your animals. Your mule abruptly slips its halter and races on down toward the valley. Flashes of lightning soon begin to dance upon the mountaintop above, and thunder strikes, echo out almost as soon as you can blink. Votes are in, and option 2 wins. We're going to stand on a boulder and raise our hands to the Lord. Your horse bolts. An instant later, a flash of white-hot lightning hurls you off your feet. When sight returns, you are drenched, singed, and utterly convinced that something ironic has occurred.
That's what you get.
Perhaps in part because your horse and mule come trotting back with their heads hung low in apology. Once your feet stops tingling, you stumble on down the mountainside. Resolve greatly increased, health decreased. Aw.
That's what happens. You raise your hands to God, he's like, lol, trolled.
After a miserable night of clammy rest, you set out again to find that the land has been transformed. Green shoots and flowers litter the hillsides and ridges as if to greet the morning in bursts of brilliant colors. Between wet coughs, you gaze across the transformed land and find a swollen river in your way. This stretch of water might have been a muddy stream yesterday, but right now it is a fast-flowing chocolate serpent that slithers steadily south. Oh, God, I love alliteration. Branches, leaves, and a few dead mice bob their way along in... Oh, let me try that sentence again. Branches, leaves, and a few dead mice bob their way along in waters that are at least 3 feet deep. Not unmanageable, but certainly not a simple trot. We have a 3-way tie between 1, 3, and 4, and TC in the chat argued, well, that if we rest up, we can get some health back since we are, well, resting up, and I think that's a good idea. So, we rest up and wait for the water level to drop. It takes 2 days, but soon enough, the water level falls enough to make for an easy crossing, and a little health is restored. Excellent. Do we actually have, like, a health meter? No, but we're healthy and vigorous, so sweet. Okay. Days swiftly become weeks as you traverse a desolate country where even a coyote would have had to carry a canteen. Indeed, you could almost miss the storm if it weren't for that rasp of a cough that won't quite go away. The whole of it is parched right down to the roots, as if famine had decided to make it home. Only the sparse rivers and streams that cross the land dare to turn the dusty brown land into stretches of green for a time. Time and again, you nearly empty your mule's water skins before you reach a place to refill them. A little health recovered. A particularly arid stretch tests your limits with dry camp after dry camp. Even the prickly cactus begins to look succulent, but thankfully, a bit of green on up ahead catches your eye. A little bit of pasture where the grass is long, and that means water nearby. As you consider that, a shot rings out. It came from a rifle somewhere up ahead. Thankfully, whoever opened fire wasn't shooting at you. Votes are in, and options 1 and 2 are tied, so the Akamura is going to flip a coin here.
Right. Heads 1, tails 2.
And?
Heads.
Heads. Option 1, we ride on over to that little pasture and see what all the fuss is about. Fortune favors the bold is an old saying that goes back to Virgil's Aeneid, and... God, I'm so uncultured, I don't know how to pronounce that word.
Aeneid?
Sure, and seems apt considering what you may be riding into. The sparse scraggle of brush slowly gives way to tufts of green grass and gnarled trees. Ahead lies a little stream that burbles up seemingly from solid rock. Burble. It gathers there in a shallow pool just below the slate gray stone, and promises cool relief you should grasp with both hands.
Burble is a great name for an angry dog.
Now I need to name a Pokemon.
Sick 'em, Burble.
Clustered near a picturesque watering hole, a dozen or so cattle graze, and amidst them stands a lean rake of a cowboy who steadies his rifle in both hands. His wide-brimmed hat shifts your way and reveals a narrow silhouette like a mountaintop tree. The trails of his long tan trail coat lie as still as the grave as his right... What the fuck? That's too many asses. Jesus. Tighten up your writing. The tails of his long tan trail coat lie as still as the grave, as his rifle remains wholly fixed upon something near the bubbling spring. You follow his gaze and find that it leads to the spring head. There, a shift of dark cloth flutters in the breeze. A gray-touched prospector, pistol in hand, hides behind a jut of slate. The man could be part bear with that thick bristle of beard and mustache. Hey, it's Uncle from Red Dead Redemption. At his feet rest the battered pans, picks, and screens of the gold-seeking trade. Off to one side of the pool lies a hefty but lifeless calf. A trickle of blood leaks out from its side where a bullet has struck. Votes are in, and reveal your tin star wins the poll chat. The tin star shines in the bright sun and splashes a silvery flash upon the waters of the watering hole. The cowboy turns toward you and lowers his rifle. You a marshal, stranger? The prospector eases the hammer down on his sidearm before he holsters it. Looks to be. And I'll take the marshal's judgment over yours, cowboy, every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Neither man has moved, and neither seems willing to do so. It's as if they could stay here all day and wait for something to shift. Votes are in, and we hear out the cowboy first. The cowboy pushes his hat back and regards you with a squint of sky-blue eyes. I'm Ben Carson. I work on the Big Bell Ranch just south of Albion Falls. I knew it. You're one of them desert folks, the prospector calls out almost tauntingly from behind his rock. Ha! I'm a brother of the Latter-day Saints, if that's what you mean. The cowboy shrugs off the... Were the Mormons founded back in 1870 or 1867?
Yep, they're...
I know they're recent, but I thought they were more recent than that.
Nope.
Huh. Anyway, the cowboy shrugs off the insult like a duck in the rain. Anyway, we were driving a head of cattle west when a storm blew up, scattered us some. I'd been gathering strays, brought them down here for a drink. Next thing I know, I hear a gunshot and one of the calves flops. I look over and there's that man with his pistol still smoking. Option 2 is the first one. Did you see him shoot? Didn't have to. Like I said, I heard the shot and saw him standing there with a smoking pistol, and the herd was shying away from him like we were a fox in a chicken yard, Carson explains. And the second highest was 4. Did you look in on the watering hole first? Carson scratches his head a moment. No, can't say that I did, owing to the fact that I was alone out here. If I got ahead of the herd, I might lose a few strays. Nearly did anyways. Alright, and I don't think anyone voted for anything else. Wait, no, I take that back. TC voted for 1, so I'll pick that one next. Your little herd must have been very thirsty. We'd been without a drink for most of the day, and there were only a few greens for them to chew on. But when they smelled this here water, they led me right to it, Carson explains. Option 3 is the winner. When did you get to the water? Well, like I said, I had laggards, Carson says. And those that were the thirstiest couldn't hardly keep up with the rest, so I had to move them along. Option 5 is the second highest, so your heifers must come in pretty eager. Yeah, they were very thirsty, Carson notes, and that is all we needed to know from you. Alright, we've heard Carson's side of the tale, so now we can either take a look around, hear the prospector's side of the tale, or just render a decision. So, please choose 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. Option 2 wins. We hear the prospector out next. Up close, the prospector is a bit stiff of... I'm gonna say that's not Freudian. That was just me being distracted from that text I had earlier. And not at all any indication of where my mind usually is. Anyway.
You had naughty thoughts.
Up close, the prospector is a stiff bit of one sun-weathered rawhide.
Don't giggle, they'll know.
A tease of white hair salts him up in years. What? A tease of white hair salts him up in years that almost makes his bristle of a beard and mustache seem dignified. Both sleeves of a pale brown calico shirt have been rolled up, and there are more than a few patches on his trousers where work has worn through. You want to hear what really happened, the prospector asks? Well, let old Dan Schmidt tell you the truth. Alright. We have 5 options. Please select 1 through 5 to let us know how we respond to this old piece of Schmidt. Stole that joke from Family Guy.
Lol.
Option 3 wins. You're Dan Schmidt? My father used to talk about you back in California. Yeah? Schmidt asks and then cracks a smile. I expect I made quite a stir with my stories. See, there's a lot of folks that came out to California around 49, but I'd already been trapping and prospecting my way through the Ruby Mountains here for years. Now everything's changed. Oh, now everything's changed. Lots of people, all in a damned hurry, including that Mormon fella. Okay. Were these the same options that we just had?
No.
Because one disappeared, but... Oh, these are going to be different options because if I had talked to this guy first... Huh. That's actually kind of clever. The writer. Who's the writer? Alan Guys?
Geese, maybe?
Geese? Yeah, that's clever. I like the way he did that. Okay, anyway. So we have 4 options
It's
here.
a German last name, so
Please select one of those 4 options. Option 1 wins. That wounded calf. Tell me about it. The whole herd was bearing down on me. I tried to turn them from trampling my gear. Didn't work. They was just too thirsty. Option 1 wins. Why didn't you just fire into the air? I've gone against grizzlies, wolves, and even a damn mountain lion once. Best way to scare them off is to try and plug them dead center so they stay scared or make dead. And let me tell you, those steers were just too damn stupid to take the first hint. Option 2 wins. Carson said he brought his little straggling herd in for watering. That he did. Straight in without so much a holler. By the time I noticed them thundering in, it was too late. And option 3 did get some votes. So, Carson tells me you shot one of his calf, was standing over it when he rode up. It were the only way to turn the herd from trampling my screens. Didn't work, though. They were just too thirsty or stupid. That's all I need to know. Alright, so we are back to... Now that we've heard both men's stories, we can either take a look around or render a decision. Option 1 wins. We're going to take a look around. A dead calf, a muddy watering hole, and trampled pans and screens. Schmidt must have been panning for gold when all of a sudden a herd of thirsty cattle came crashing down on him. He pulled his pistol and, rightly or wrongly, shot one of Carson's calves to try to turn the herd aside. Carson didn't do anything criminal, though, because he was just bringing his cattle in to drink. Schmidt slouches behind the big rock by the watering hole as if he's got all day now that he's gotten... he's got all day now that he's gotten the story out of the way. Carson waits patiently with his hands folded before him. So it's time to render a decision. You present yourself before the two men and indicate you are ready to render a decision. All right, we are the judge and jury and maybe the executioner. Who is at fault? Please choose 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the chat. All right, looks like option 4 is the winner. Both of you are at fault. Both men gape and glance at one another in disbelief. Order and law slightly increased. Votes are in and option 3 wins. The two of you didn't so much as sing out a hello to each other, did you? The two men shift uneasily at the obvious truth. You're saying that if I'd come ahead of the herd, Carson considers, I'd have seen him in time to stop the rush. And if I'd stuck my flag on my claim here, he'd have known someone was here, Schmidt replies. I'm getting lazy with all this gold lying about. Carson holds out a hand to Schmidt, who grasps it. The two men give a firm shake, look one another square in the eye, and just like that, they're not even thinking about killing each other. Ha! Maybe we are Paragon. Votes are in, and option 3 wins. Your debts are essentially even. Yeah? Schmidt asks as he considers the cowboy across from him. Maybe. I don't like it, Carson considers, but maybe that makes it fair. You gonna cut up that calf for steaks? I'd pay for a good haunch, Schmidt says as he offers his hand. Reluctantly, the two men shake on things. And just about everybody is choosing option 1. Now then, I've decided to waive my fee for this arbitration. Mighty kind, Schmidt says to you, honor increased. Things are settled, but your journey continues. There was a two-way tie between option 1 and option 4. The Akamara flipped a coin, and we are heading out alone. You ride away from the watering... Oh, well, yeah, that was easy. You ride away from the watering hole atop your steed. The salt and pepper roan seems almost eager to finish this journey. The pack mule that trails behind could well take or leave the whole endeavor. And so you ride for days with just your horse and your pack mule for company. It is a tiring, monotonous journey, but thankfully, come one morning, you see civilization in the distance. A cluster of sharp edges where everything has been curved and round. 24 low buildings lie in a valley between mountains. Preston Springs at last. TC says we are fucked. But, we'll see. Even though we don't have buddies in Preston Springs. We will see. But this is the end of Chapter 1, which means it's also the end of the main stream for this week. If you are watching this from the archive, hopefully you come back next week and participate some more, or again, or for once. I don't know. Anyway, audience participation. That's what this channel is about because of PyroFalkon's Let's Play Extravaganza. It's your Let's Play too. If you are watching this live on YouTube, stick around because we will at least discuss an after party. I don't know what we will do. I am crippled still, so I saw Ryu D suggested I play some Dungeon Keeper, but I physically can't. I basically can't do anything that I can't play one-handed. But we will discuss what else we can do. But if you are watching this from the archive, you should join us every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on YouTube. And again, as always, you will get a 1 week in advance notice every time we do a stream. So set a reminder, come to the show, audience participation. I love you guys, and I want you to be part of the show too, from the bottom of my heart. So, anything to add, the Akamura?
Apparently we're gonna get shot. So we're just gonna take a shitload of pain. this entire game. Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Also, I'm starting to make a playlist for it in my head. I'm garbage.
Thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you next week for another stream.
Bye!